Hello, Professor and fellow classmates. I'd like to start by apologizing for any background sound you might hear. I have two young children who unfortunately are stuck home from school. Alright, so getting into it, for Module 4's discussion, I chose to do mine on the Fourth Amendment. The Fourth Amendment states, "The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue, but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized." So a little history of the Fourth Amendment and how it came to be. It was one of the few amendments that grew directly from the experiences of the colonials and was also drawn from English experiences. The English likes to say every man's house is his castle, and it also helped protect against writs of assistance. In Sayman's case, they established the right of homeowners to protect against their homes from unlawful entry, even from the king's agents. One case in particular that really motivated the creation of the Fourth Amendment was Entick versus Carrington. In this case, Lord Halifax sent several of the king's messengers to John Entick's house in search of an author who wrote some very seditious papers. While they were searching his home, they broke open doors, broke locks, they took a bunch of pamphlets, and in total they ended up causing over a couple $1,000s worth of damages. As a result, Entick then sued the messengers for trespassing. There are a few Supreme Court cases that achieved landmark status due to their achievements. One of them is called Mapp versus Ohio. In Mapp versus Ohio, Dolly Mapp was arrested when officers were forcefully searched her home in search of a bomber that she was connected to. While searching her home, they found some pornographic materials. She was ultimately charged with possession of lewd materials, and in a 6-3 ruling, the Supreme Court held that the materials were unconstitutionally obtained and therefore inadmissible. This Supreme Court case was a landmark decision because it helped strengthen the Fourth Amendment by declaring that the exclusionary rule went beyond the federal government and, went to the state government as well. In Katz versus the United States, Charles Katz was suspected of transmitting gambling information over the telephone to individuals in Florida and Massachusetts. As a result, the FBI placed electronic listening and recording device to the payphone and recorded the phone calls that Katz had with the individuals in Miami and Boston. As a result of this court hearing, the Supreme Court held that the Fourth Amendment protection of unconstitutional search and seizures pertained to the persons and not necessarily the area in which the person, participated in the activity. The government tried to fight and say that he was in a public area, therefore his business was not private, but the Supreme Court did not see it that way and ruled that it was a violation of Mr. Katz's Fourth Amendment rights because he believed that the phone call that he made was subject to privacy. So that's why this court hearing was so important, because it helped establish the boundaries to the rights of privacy in which the Fourth Amendment protects. Lastly, we have Terry versus Ohio. Officer McFadden was casually dressed and patrolling a street corner when he saw two men acting quite irrationally and odd. He decided to take it upon himself to continue watching the two men and to see, just exactly what they were doing and just try to figure out if they were doing anything they weren't supposed to be doing. He ended up approaching the men and asked for their name. He then decided to pat down Terry and Chilton, and when doing so, he found that each man had a gun tucked away in their shirt. He called for backup, and the two men were arrested and charged with carrying concealed weapons, I believe. At trial, Terry's attorney tried to fight and say that Officer McFadden had obtained the weapon in an unreasonable search, which was in violation of Terry's Fourth Amendment right, to which the trial judge denied. He then appealed to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court again denied. They denied the appeal and held that Officer McFadden had reasonable suspicion, and that the frisk and pat down was not unconstitutional, and the men were charged. So this court case was important in terms of the Fourth Amendment because the Supreme Court helped establish that an officer does not always have to have probable cause to make an arrest as long as they had a reasonable suspicion to search the individual, then it was not unconstitutional. So that's why this one was a landmark case. So in conclusion, the Fourth Amendment is so important because it helps maintain our civil liberties while ensuring the safety of our society.